Get up. It's a Moody morning. 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 Better get up on it. Hey, it's a Moody morning. Don't let your mornings be moody. Let them be moody.
Well, hello, boys and girls. It's me, Dr. Moody, and welcome back to our podcast, Moody Mornings, where we have exactly what you need for your Moody mornings. We are back today with episode number 22, and on today's episode, we'll look at the life of Daniel and how he displayed hope. Well, as always, before we start, let's welcome my co-host, Pastor co-host Steve. How are you doing today?
Well, good Moody morning, Dr. Moody. I'm doing really well today. How are you?
Oh, I'm splendid, Pastor Steve. Pastor Steve, do you realize that Christmas is less than 2 months away? I've already been looking through all of my catalogs. I have picked out the best gift that anyone could ever hope for, and it's what I'm hoping to get this year.
Christmas, Dr. Moody? Catalogs? Gifts? What's going on here?
Christmas.
Dr. Moody, you know it's only October, and we still have the Thanksgiving holiday to celebrate before we even get to Christmas. I'm afraid to ask, but what is it that you're hoping for?
All right, get ready. Get ready for this, all right? I'm hoping to finally get the Zamboni I've always wanted.
A Zamboni?
Yes.
Why in the world would you need a Zamboni, Dr. Moody?
Because
Don't you know we live in Southern California and there's no place for you to drive that around here? Don't you realize that it only snows in the mountains?
oh, who says you need snow for a Zamboni? And there are plenty of places for me to drive it around, like the park, the grocery store, back and forth from my lab. Oh, and you should see what I could do with that thing at a skate park.
Oh, my goodness.
You see, everyone my age is driving around in those electric wheelchairs and golfing carts in their communities. I am about to change the culture. Watch out for me and my Zamboni.
I can only imagine what you would look like driving that thing, Dr. Moody.
So cool.
Yeah, right. Do you even know how to drive?
Yeah.
Dr. Moody, but I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I know for a fact that Zambonis are not street legal. You're going to have to figure out something else for Christmas.
Well, you know what? I'm going to ignore all of that mumbo jumbo. And the best part of all of this is who's giving it to me.
Dr. Moody, you might want to let them know so they don't waste their money.
Well, I know it was supposed to be a surprise, Pastor Steve. You know, wrapped up with a big bow on it. I just can't hold it in anymore. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you for what?
Well, for getting me the Zamboni I've always wanted. You're the best co-host in the world.
Dr. Moody, didn't you just hear anything I said? You're not getting a Zamboni for Christmas, and I'm definitely not getting it for you. And before you say anything, neither is Timmy, so don't even ask.
Well, thanks a lot. I was really hoping that I would get it, and now you crushed my dream. Not only that, but the example I was hoping to use for our episode today.
Example? What are you talking about?
Well, today we're talking about hope, so I was hoping to get a Zamboni for Christmas.
I see what you were trying to do there, Dr. Moody, but that's the wrong type of hope that we're going to be talking about today. You see, the hope that you're referring to is more like wishful thinking, a dream, or having an expectation of something that's going to happen. The hope that we'll be talking about today is more like a faith, a trust, or having confidence in. You know, a great Bible verse for this is Hebrews 11:1. One translation puts it this way: faith is the confidence that we have, or that what we hope for will actually happen. It gives us assurance about things we cannot see. You see, this type of hope can be defined as waiting for salvation with joy and full of confidence.
Well, that reminds me of a verse from Psalm 31:24. It says, "Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart, all of you who hope in the Lord." There are many times in Daniel's life where the circumstances seemed hopeless, but yet he had hope in the Lord.
Yes, Dr. Moody, there were many times in Daniel's life where he hoped in the Lord. Can you imagine working for a king and all of a sudden you were approached and told that you would be killed?
What? Did that happen to Daniel? Someone tried to kill him? How many times was Daniel's life threatened?
Well, Dr. Moody, there were a few times. As a matter of fact, in Daniel chapter 2, It tells of a time when King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream that bothered him so much that he couldn't sleep. He had asked the men who were overseers in his kingdom to come and tell him what his dream was and what it meant. The men asked the king to tell them his dream so they could give him the meeting. The king didn't want them to make something up, so he just told them no. The men didn't like this, and the king told them to have the guards kill all of the overseers. This included Daniel and his friends.
Well, what happened to Daniel? Did
Well,
he die?
we'll pick that up in the second half of our show.
Oh, I don't want to wait. Worship time.
I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. Let's sing that all together now. 'Cause I've got peace, love, and joy like a river, ocean, fountain. I've got peace, love, and joy in my soul. I've got peace, love, and joy like a river, ocean, fountain. I've got peace, love, and joy in my soul. I've got peace, love, and joy in my soul. I've got peace, love, and joy in my soul.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Pastor Steve was just telling us the story of Daniel and King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and he decided to leave us on a cliffhanger. Pastor Steve, you mentioned that the king's god had just approached Daniel, and Daniel used wisdom when he spoke to the god. Can you tell us what happened, and what did Daniel say afterwards?
Yeah, Dr. Moody, you know, the Bible tells us that Daniel used wisdom, and he spoke with discernment when he answered the king's guard. And so the king's guard came and asked Daniel what was so urgent about all of these things. And so the guard told Daniel what the king had requested. And so Daniel asked to go have an audience with the king, and Daniel was able to go to the king, and the king gave Daniel some time to be able to figure out the dream and to be able to interpret it.
Well, so how was he going to do that? He didn't know what the dream was even about. Ah, I get it. He was hoping that he would be able to interpret the dream.
Dr. Moody, don't forget who Daniel trusted or hoped in. He hoped in the Lord. So Daniel went home and he told his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, or the more familiar names to us, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
So many names.
Yes. And Daniel had asked them to seek God with him so that he would be able to give the interpretation of the dream to the king. Do you want to guess what happened?
Well, I know that Daniel didn't die, so he must have figured it out. But how?
That's the easy part, Dr. Moody. God gave him the interpretation. Daniel was able to go and tell the king his dream and what it meant. And when Daniel went in before the king the first time, he was able to do so because of his hope in the Lord. He had confidence that the Lord would deliver him and his friends, so he didn't fear the king's response or even not being able to do what the king had asked.
Wow. Well, for a minute there, I didn't think that Daniel would make it. That was a close call. What a great story of having hope in the Lord. Were there any other times in Daniel's life where he displayed hope?
Yes, Dr. Moody, there was. As a matter of fact, I think that's just how Daniel lived his life, hoping in the Lord. You know, in Daniel chapter 5, there's another story of Daniel and another king. This time the king's name is Belshazzar.
All these names, Pastor Steve, they're so unusual.
They are indeed, Dr. Moody, but those were the names that reflected the culture and the part of the world that they lived in. So one night, King Belshazzar was having a dinner party with over 1,000 people. Now, King Belshazzar did things that were not right in the eyes of the Lord, including worshiping other gods.
Well, as Christians, we're not supposed to worship any other gods or put anything in the place of God.
You're absolutely right, Dr. Moody. Well, it was during this time at the dinner party that all of a sudden a man's hand appeared out of nowhere and began writing on the wall with its fingers.
What? A hand? It just appeared. That must have scared everyone, including the king.
Yes, Dr. Moody. The Bible tells us that the king's face turned pale with fright. His knees began to knock together in fear, and his legs gave way beneath him. The king then requested that all of the wise men be brought to him so that they could interpret what was written. They all came, and none of them could read or interpret the writing.
No, but was Daniel there? Did they ask him to read and interpret it?
As a matter of fact, they did ask Daniel, but Daniel wasn't there at the dinner party when all of this happened. So the queen, who knew about Daniel, told the king all about him, and the king had Daniel brought to him so he could interpret the writing on the wall. Now, Daniel wasn't fearful or worried about giving the correct interpretation because Daniel knew the Lord. He knew the Lord was going to give him that ability to interpret the writing on the wall. Daniel's hope and confidence was always in the Lord.
No, I'm afraid to ask, but what did the writing on the wall say? I don't think it was good because of the things that King Belshazzar was doing and how he lived his life, right?
You're right, Dr. Moody. It wasn't good. The writing on the wall said that God has put an end to the reign as king of King Belshazzar. His kingdom was going to be divided and given to his enemies. King Belshazzar's reign was over, and that very night, his enemies and King Darius the Mede began to reign.
Oh, what an example Daniel is to all of us. We all need to remember to place our hope in the Lord like Daniel did.
Dr. Moody, the only way we can be like Daniel and to hope in the Lord is to spend time with him. The more you know someone, the more you can have confidence in him. So the more time you spend with the Lord, the more you get to know him, the easier it is for you to have hope or confidence in him.
Well, Pastor Steve, we've spent a lot of time together with this podcast, and I think I know you pretty well. So I'm placing my hope in you that for Christmas you'll get me that Zamboni I've always wanted.
Dr. Moody, were you even listening to anything I said? Boys and girls, remember to always hope in the Lord.
Boys and girls, has there ever been a situation in your life where you placed your hope in the Lord that you would like to share with us? Or do you have a question about the Bible? Or maybe a question for me, Dr. Moody? We would love to hear from you. Have your parents message us on Instagram, and who knows, maybe we might just answer your question here on Moody Mornings. Next time on Moody Mornings, we're going to have a special episode and get to know Dr. Moody, that's me, a little more. Be sure to tune in. And remember, no matter what time of the day, you can always have a Moody Morning. We'll see you next time. Goodbye. I really hope I get